Koyokoyo's brand, back with another exclusive interview. And today I have the amazing presence of rugby royalty, Uganda women rugby royalty, Helen Buteme. A very strong and influential hand in the formation of these big teams. Ladies and gentlemen, join me. Let's have a very good conversation, very insightful conversation with Helen.
Thank you guys for having me.
Uh, I would love to start this off with a nice break and make you comfortable. So I would love to know: are you in love? Are you dating?
No, I'm not dating
You're
at the
not
moment.
dating.
No,
Are you looking at anyone?
no, not at the moment.
In other words, if you're out there and you're watching this, she's not dating anyone at the moment. So the cost is still very clear. Cost is still very clear.
That's if they're ready to compete with rugby.
Oh, there is that too.
Yeah.
Helen is rugby and rugby is Helen. Let's get straight into rugby. When did you first meet the game?
I was actually exposed to rugby way back when I was in primary school because of my brothers. They played rugby, so even if we didn't play, they'd make us watch rugby games with them and drag us along to rugby matches. And so it was something I always saw, but I knew it was a game for men. Yeah. So I grew up knowing about rugby. Fast forward a couple of years, okay, not a couple of, many years later, 2003, I went down to Chadondo because I was bored. I used to play field hockey and had quit. And I'd been playing sports all my life, so I needed to play something. So I asked to start playing rugby, but touch rugby. Started off with touch rugby, and I was playing with the guys, and then other girls started coming and joining in. So we'd have touch rugby like every 2 days or so, like on the guys when the days the guys weren't having like contact training, until the men's national team traveled to Kenya and for the Elgon Cup, and the team's curtain raising were women's teams. And so Sogi came back and said, "Leave this nonsense of touch rugby. We'll never take you anywhere. If you want to travel, you have to begin contact rugby." And I was like, "Nope, I'm not playing rugby. I'm quite happy playing this." So he badgered me for about 2 weeks. And in the end, I gave in. I said, okay, because I like, just give it one try. They said, if you try it, other girls will try it. So just have one session. If you don't like it, you can go back to touch rugby. And so I was like, okay, cool. So they brought along the late Jim Park to introduce us to rugby. And yeah, we started tackling, and halfway through the session, I was like, I am such an idiot. I love this game. What have I been waiting for? And it just built from there. Half the girls quit because they didn't like the contact, and the other half were like me and fell in love with the game. And it just kept growing from there until it just snowballed into this massive thing. Yeah.
A few years down the road, you were captain at World Cup in Dubai.
Yes. When you play sport, you always imagine yourself playing at the pinnacle of the sport. Yeah, and at that time, it was the 15s World Cup for the women. There was no 7s World Cup for the women. And so we badly wanted to play, but they weren't giving us the opportunity. It was only South Africa that would get the African slot automatically. No matter how much we played against Kenya or Kenya played against us, they were like, no.
Still.
Exactly, yeah, that there's not enough women's rugby. And so South Africa kept going. So it's getting a bit discouraging until World Rugby, at that time IRB, applied to the IOC for rugby sevens to be admitted into the Olympics. And they were told no, because you have the men's sevens World Cup, but what about women? And the Olympics is about equal opportunity. And they were also like, you have all these elite developed countries playing rugby, but there's no emphasis on the developing countries. And so World Rugby came up with the now Women's World Cup. And so the Women's World Cup was held for the first time in 2009. And they tried to emphasize on developing countries as well to make it look more attractive. And at that time we were the top in Africa, or the top two were just second after South Africa. So 2008, qualifiers were held in Uganda, and we qualified for the World Cup. We finished number 2, and so we went through to Dubai. Yeah.
those ladies with whom you played in Dubai, are you still in touch with all of them? Are they still involved with the game right now?
Yeah, there's some who are involved in the game. There are others who don't play at all anymore. But currently, the captain of the women's national team is Charlotte Mudola, who played in the World Cup as well. Yeah, at that time she was still no, not really a rookie, but she was a lot younger than now. Of course, it's been almost 10 years. Yeah, so
9 years on.
yeah, it's 9 years on. So she was doing her LDC at that time. I remember because I recall her coming up to me and saying, "You know what? I'm not going to go for the World Cup." And I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because the week after we return, we're supposed to have LDC exams, and what if I fail?" So I asked her, "When will you ever have an opportunity to go to the World Cup again? You can always resit those LDC exams." And
I'm not
yeah,
sure her parents would have loved your line of thought.
actually, her mother agreed with me 100%. Yeah, because look at it like this way: when have we gone to the World Cup again? And she's a lawyer. She came back the week after, sat her LDC exams, and passed all of them. Yeah, it's just a matter of balance. I told her, you know, you have these exams, so prepare for them, but at the same time, don't miss this opportunity. And if she hadn't gone to the World Cup, I mean, she's now in her 30s. Her playing days are coming to a close. We're trying to qualify for the World Cup again, but it's not easy. You know, so that would have been an opportunity that passed her by. So she just balanced, and it worked out well for her. She came back, sat her exams, passed.
And now she's a lawyer.
Now she's a lawyer.
What an amazing story.
Yeah.
I do realize in your support system is your sister.
Yep.
You have two sisters who are both sports ladies. But there's one who is involved in rugby as well.
Yeah.
How did you get to bring her into the game? As I understand, you met it with your brothers, then you left it for a while, played field hockey, then you got back. Did she follow the same route like you did?
She'd always tell me, no, I'm not coming to play rugby. And so I had like given up, you know, she just wasn't interested at all. Yeah, she was a fan because she had supported my brothers as well when they were playing rugby, and she used to watch rugby games when she was at university, but she just wasn't like interested in playing it. And then in 2006, I moved from Chadondo to what was Kampala Rugby Football Club at that time, which is now Legends. And I moved there to start up a new team. And she told me, it was like December 2005, she told me, I'm going to buy rugby boots and join you next year. And I was like, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I didn't believe it. Until January came, we started training, and she pitched up. And she's not stopped since. Even when she broke her ankle in Dubai a couple of years ago, we had gone for Dubai Sevens, she broke her ankle. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough on me as well because I spent a lot of the time carrying her on my back.
Literally.
Yeah, no, because to go up to the stands, it was very awkward for her to use her crutches to climb up into the stands. Yeah, so I'd put her on my back, she'd hold the crutches, she'd hold her bag and my bag, and then I'd climb up the stairs. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Then along the way in your playing journey, you become the first Ugandan to play in UK women's league.
Yeah.
How accomplished did you feel going to
Wow, it was pretty amazing because England has the most organized and you could say most competitive and best league in the world, such that you even would have players from New Zealand coming all the way to England to play there. Women, yeah. So in the league, there were players from New Zealand, from France, from Canada, from USA, Scotland, Ireland. Basically, players who are playing for their countries or they want to play for their countries, so they come to sharpen their game. And so, and then of course you'd have the English internationals. So the team I was playing for, Thurrock T-Birds, it just was kind of by chance. One of my friends, I'd gone to visit a friend in England, mentioned to them, oh, she plays rugby for Uganda. I was still playing at that time. And they're like, oh, really? Interesting. Looked at me and I was a small player, and he was like, oh, okay. Then he's like, send us a video and we see, And I was like, okay, I got together some highlights, sent it to them, and forgot about it. Until a week later, they contacted me and said, um, can you travel down to England this week and like join us for training and we see? And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, and I was in Sweden at that time, so I just checked out flights, and it's so cheap to travel within Europe. Yeah, it was like 20 euros, which is like at that time that was about 60,000 return flights, so that was nothing. So I just booked a plane, went over. I missed the Tuesday session, so I trained with them on Thursday. And Thursday they were basically doing attack. They'd done defense early in the week, so we had an attacking session. And then I went home. They told me, yeah, you'll probably be on the bench. I was like, okay, cool. And the game would be on Sunday. And then I got a call from the captain, and she was like, I know you said you play in the center, but we really want you to start, but you've not been with us long enough to know the moves, and we're not sure about your defense. Can you play on the wing? In my head, I was like, no, I hate the wing. But then I was like, wow, this is the English Premiership. And also the person who played the center was playing for England in the center. And so, yeah, priorities.
getting her out.
Getting her out would be difficult. So I agreed to play on the wing. Pitched up on Sunday, and we just ran through some moves so I could like familiarize myself with them. I started the game, I finished the game, and they got to discover my defense was pretty solid because I kept nailing the England winger on the other wing. And yeah, and so they were like, "Can you come next weekend?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And
You scored any tries on your debut?
no, I didn't score on my debut, but I scored in the following game. Yeah.
Hat-trick?
No, just one try.
That will do. That will do.
Yeah, one try. And so, yeah, I played 3 games before the season ended. And, yeah, so they asked me, like, if I could come back the following season. But, yeah, I came back to Uganda. And it's really expensive to fly from Uganda to England. So,
It is.
yeah. Yeah, but you see, the thing that experience taught me is that we are actually really good rugby players here. It's just we lack experience, we lack the game time, and we lack the same structures and resources that they have in England. Because they kept asking, like, actually, Gary Street at that time was the England head coach, and he even asked my coaches about me because he was interested in, like, me trialing out for the England elite squad. They have, like, 44 players. But then they told him, no, she's a Ugandan international, and she's not as young as she looks anyway.
African body. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. So we are good, but without enough game time. Like in the English Premiership League, they play minimum of 14 games, 15 aside games in one season. Whereas in our league, we play like 4, 5, 6 games, and the season is done. And then they have, like when you're an international, you have a minimum of 6 internationals every year. When it's a World Cup year, you could have up to 10 or 12 internationals. Whereas back here, I think the person with the highest number of caps and has been playing since 2006 has 13 caps. So, and it's against the same team, Kenya. Once against Rwanda, once against South Africa. So you don't grow.
It's 1 year, 1 cup.
2 caps because it'll be home and away. But then you don't grow. You don't grow. When you keep playing the same players over and over and over again, you learn who they are, what they do. So you adapt their play according to them. You're like, that one doesn't tackle, so, or this one never passes, or this one is a good tackler, so let me avoid this one and run towards that one. You don't develop as a player, but if you keep playing different players, different teams, you have to adjust. You have to switch. Plan A isn't working, go to plan B, adapt, that sort of thing. And that's our biggest challenge. We can play just as well as the top players in the world, and I proved that when I was in England. I've played for other teams in Sweden, in Germany, in Netherlands. I've played together with, like, sometimes there are festival teams which have international players from other countries, and I've slotted in easily. It was never a problem. Skill level the same, understanding of the game the same. But just that experience is what sets us apart. And unless we get that exposure and we develop our local game, we'll continue looking at these players, watching them on TV and saying, wow, they're so good. Yeah.
Is that the culture you're trying to develop? Because I've seen you one kind of.
Yeah.
That the culture.
Yeah, it's a combination of many things. Uganda doesn't really have a proper sporting culture. When you compare to Kenya, Kenya has a really rock solid sporting culture and sport is taken seriously. Uganda doesn't have that. So you'll find a lot of people want to like achieve without putting in the hard work and effort and sacrifice that goes into it. So we're trying to develop that at Rugby Tackling Life, and we're trying to do it from a very young age. At the same time, we have so many people who are really, really talented, but they don't have the opportunity to play rugby because they have no idea what it is. So we go to areas and introduce rugby so that people have the opportunity to discover whatever talents they have. Then they're in far-flung areas, yet rugby is concentrated here in Central. So we give them the opportunity to be able to come here, be spotted, to be exposed to a higher level of coaching than they would have otherwise had. Then on top of that, there are some players who have challenges in their life off the rugby pitch. Not able to go to school, they don't have jobs, they're not confident in themselves. So Rugby Tackling Life, we try and help with all those. Because there's so many girls who drop out of school, get pregnant, get married, just because they feel they don't have an alternative. So we lose a lot of talent that way. And then it's a vicious cycle which keeps going on because they continue this cycle of poverty. Their kids grow up in that same cycle. And as a whole, it's not good for the country. So we're using rugby to try and change that.
So doing other hand in publishing.
Thunderbirds, Panthers, Entebbe Ladies. There were the ones which I established as well. Then Black Pearls, originally known as Walukuba Titans in Jinja. Then I've assisted with setting up teams in Busia Lady Rhinos. Kitgum had a team before, so what I've just done is help grow the numbers and improve the level of rugby that they play. Yeah, so actually Northern Uganda had girls play, but in isolation. So I went and just helped them like be exposed. Yeah, form a system. So we have teams in Lira, Apache, and in Kitgum. Then introduced rugby in Arua and in Pakwach as well. Yeah.
And you're still introducing them.
Yeah, still have more plans to keep introducing it. Oh, and then there's Masaka as well. We introduced rugby in Masaka and Wengo.
So in other words, whenever there's a new district,
Kind of like that.
okay.
Yeah.
2016, you were promoted to head coach for the
Yeah.
2 years later, you ran as a
I think it's because when I believe in something and I want to achieve it, I really like try my level best to make sure it happens. I will push things and make things work. And then the way I saw things, I was looking at qualifying for Olympics and World Cup, but long term, not short term. And so, of course, you needed younger players to do it, younger players who would be ready to put in the extra effort. Because most of the older players had become complacent and weren't willing to sacrifice extra. Many of them also had families or had jobs, so it just wasn't feasible for them to put in that commitment. Exactly. But then the younger players bought into the dream of we want to go for Olympics and we want to go for a World Cup as well. And so they've been working towards it. So it's just a matter of getting this group of young players with experienced players like Charlotte Mudola and Asha Nachitio to guide them. And the two have been amazing leaders. They've been so fantastic for this group of players. They've grown together with the players. And so these young girls, so committed, and they're really, really hungry. And they believe in themselves as well. Because I tell them, I believe you can do this, get this job done. And they'll get it done. And so we'd set targets. At 2016, 2015 we finished in 7th position. Let's finish in the top 4. It doesn't matter where, but let's reach the semi-final. That's fine. So we reached the semi-final. That was in Zimbabwe. Yeah, and then South Africa destroyed us. Yeah. Yeah. Then following year in Zimbabwe, again, our target was to reach the top four, but we're like, let's go a step further from fourth. Let's try and finish that. Sorry, 2016 was Zimbabwe. Now, last year was Tunisia. But we were capable of finishing third, but it's very hard to play against Tunisia at home. Yeah, and there's just something about them. Even Kenya and South Africa struggled against them, but eventually used the experience, and they're just superior players to the Tunisians, so they won. So we lost narrowly, 14-5 to Tunisia. So this year, our target was we must be number 3, and there's nothing lower than that. Then South Africa pulled out, and so we're like, South Africa has pulled out, target has shifted. Number 2, we must reach that final, and there's no choice. We just have to do it. And so usually I sit down with the players beforehand and say, let's discuss our targets. This is what we've agreed on. Okay, so I'm like, so if this is what we've agreed on, this is what you're going to have to do to achieve it. So I outlined for them the gym programs, the road work they have to do, the ball skills they have to do. And so they do a lot of extra work on their own. So when we meet for training, it's just sort of like adding on to it instead of starting from scratch.
Going by that plan of fourth, third, runners up, I should say you're going
Yeah, that is a hope that we have. It's still going to be difficult beating Kenya and South Africa. Their experience is something else altogether. They play up to 5 or 6 international tournaments a year, whereas we have just one, and that's the Africa Sevens, while they travel quite a bit, and so they get that experience. But we are hoping that we can use our experience in the final last year to build. Girls are already in the gym. They rested for 3 weeks after Botswana. They hit the gym. Yeah, for a 6-week program. One of them called me yesterday and said, I'm on the last week, so please start preparing a new program for me. Yeah. Exactly. There's that commitment that they have, which makes it so easy to work together with them. And so we're also gunning for the Hong Kong qualifiers, which will be in the first week of April. So, yeah, 2019. So if we get to play that, it will give us that extra exposure and experience before the actual Olympic qualifiers, and hopefully we can have another tournament.
cap it all. 2000 How about that?
I am so proud, when I got the phone call and I was told, I was like, oh my goodness, this is something totally awesome. And I'm so happy for them because they've worked so hard, and it's something they deserve. I'm crossing my fingers and I really, really hope that they win it. It would be so cool. But even if they don't, the fact that they've been recognized, I think it's a huge step in the right direction.
So that people actually watch.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just given them so much more confidence. They're like, wow, people think we're cool. And so
before we know it, we'll be getting
I hope so. I certainly hope so. Yeah.
Do you think you deserve a Whisper Award as well?
No, I think Whisper has its own criteria, but I think we'll get there. We'll get there. Not yet. Young Achievers Award, definitely. Whisper, there's still some stuff I want them to achieve before they get an Whisper Award.
But you have it.
Yes, it's definitely going to happen within the next 5 years.
I'm going to count.
Yeah.
From now.
From now?
Till 5 years. And
exactly.
If in that timeline there is no Whisper Awards, I'm going to come back and collect.
Okay, but I'm pretty confident because the bulk of the players that I have are between 18 to 20 years old. So young and so much to learn. They've not yet hit their peak. So I'm really, really confident they're going to be causing chaos on the African continent and the world at large in the next 5 years.
Yeah. Black Pearls. Yeah. But they still sit there. Though I think I have a reservation with like seventh period. When it gets to 15th, we don't have the numbers. How do you think about that?
Whew. I think some of the challenges we have is that the attitude towards rugby is still like, oh, this is a man's game. Girls shouldn't be playing rugby. So sometimes it's difficult to get players to the game. Whereas, so 15s you need about, okay, minimum 18 people. Whereas 7s you need like minimum 9 people, or even you can just have 7. So it's harder to get the numbers in 15s. And another thing is we don't have that much publicity about the women's game. So people don't know about it. There are times we can talk to somebody, they're like, wow, you mean I can actually play this game? I didn't know women play this game. So not enough people know about the game. So I think the more people get to know about the game, the more awareness, the more we'll have numbers coming in. And then Ugandans like success. So the more successes there are from the Lady Cranes, the more people will be like attracted to the game. That's the thing. So that's what happened when we qualified for the World Cup. We got, now suddenly player numbers went up. Yeah, but then things went downhill for a while, so now numbers like reduced. So as we improve, and the great thing is, since the players in the Lady Cranes are so young girls are looking at them and are like, that person is about my age, or that person is my age, and look at them. They're traveling to other countries. I want to be like that person. Exactly. You know, and with Rugby Tackling Life, the coaches we have are young. You know? So when we send them into schools, the girls can identify with that person. And when they talk about the experiences, you know, the experiences, for some of them, they were able to finish their schooling because of rugby tackling. They paid for their school fees. Or for some of them, they stepped on a plane for the first time because they're representing the country. So when you have 18 to 22-year-olds telling this to schoolgirls, they're like, okay, this is achievable. As opposed to maybe if I went there and they're like, she's old.
Which come from this, there are players out there that need more publicity, probably success. Well, personally, it's been a joy having you here. It's been a joy learning about our student in England, because you want to get Euros, and I'm sure after this, we're going to talk more. Because I'd love to know more about the women's game. But that's
Thank you for hosting me, Lewis.
And I wish you very, very bright and success.
Thank you.
That's all.